Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of What's Going On in Japan Tech Market Podcast. Today, I have a very special guest, Stephen Lee, often known as Cyber Steve from Tokyo here. Steve, how are you doing today?
Thanks, AV. You honor me. I'm doing well, man. Good to see you again.
Good to see you again, buddy. So, Stephen and I, we work with Robert Half. We joined in the same day, and it's been a great journey with Stephen. He's actually one of my kind of a role model in this industry, and we have been, working together very closely. So, Stephen, I'm also very excited to have you today. So, yeah, I mean, let's do it.
Man, I can't believe it's already been 3 years. What a journey it's been. But let's get
Exactly.
stuck into it.
Sure. So, Stephen, as everyone knows, you are into cybersecurity, and last week I had a chance to enjoy one of your cybersecurity meetups. So, not many people, not many recruiters do this kind of things, right? So, could you let us know, about your cybersecurity meetups and why you decided to run those?
Yeah, as in all good ideas. This came when speaking to a friend. His name is Thomas Uehara, and we were having lunch. And it's one of those things where the best ideas come through a glass of beer. And we were just talking about like how can we bring the community together in cybersecurity. So we thought about, well, why don't we do our cybersecurity events? But as we bring together our events, why don't we bring people together and have some sort of topic or agenda as well? So we decided to create these meetups and with the purpose of bringing ideas and people together in the market. So we wanted to do that to create a safer cybersecurity community in Japan. And we've kind of mixed it up. So we have some structured sessions where we have a presentation and a lightning topic to talk about an area in security. So it's not a sales pitch. It's not, no one's trying to sell you anything, but it's really about here's something I'm passionate that I'm working on. Let's give people the platform to share that. So we do that about once a quarter, and we also have two meetups, which are just more casual in a bar where people exchange ideas. And we've had some really good ideas come out of that from our meetup. So I'm very pleased to see that.
Great. I also really enjoyed the meetups, and it was really fun because it was, as you mentioned, not a sales event or neither a very serious one, the one I joined. So yeah, it was really good for me. So Stephen, actually, after the pandemic, we got to hear a lot about cybersecurity, right? And this is something like not a buzzword, but a need now. So why does this word evolve after pandemic so much?
It's a good question, and I'm trying to think about the answer. Um, I think the first knee-jerk reaction from the pandemic was the need to remote work.
Mhm.
So, typically, especially in Japan, it's like workplaces weren't set up for remote working. So all of a sudden, you need to create a lot of, how can I say, you need to create the ability for a lot of people to log in remotely at the same time, which puts strains on the system. And also from a cybersecurity point of view, people had to think about, well, how do we secure that if people are working from home, right? It just means that there's a less visibility over people and technology, especially if people are bring their own device. Let's say you don't have a company issued laptop, right? Second of all, you see that the number of attacks has been increasing as well.
Mm.
So I, I think I think another area, if we look at the data, if you look at the Olympics, so in the past, host nations of the Olympics were a target for cybersecurity attacks. So you see so you would see the trend that not only the volume has increased for each host nation over time, which is natural to see, but every time the host nation was hosting Olympics, they would be the target because their country is highlighted that they're hosting Olympics. There's an opportunity to extort people through ransomware, and it was just a focal point. And we saw in the data is that every time people host the Olympics, they were a target. So I think in Japan at least there was definitely an increase in the amount of cybersecurity professionals and engineers that were required to look after companies to make sure they were all in good shape before the Olympics. Um, Now, I think despite the Olympics, I think that was a common theme in other markets where people were looking to hire a lot of cybersecurity professionals too. Um, I think I think it's predominantly due to the rise of ransomware, where any company is a target now. Traditionally, it was just banks, people who had people who held money and stealing their money directly. hackers realized they could extort money from any business which has any online presence or online database, and basically interrupt operations and demand Bitcoin as a ransom payment. So they realized they could do this. So, now instead of just banking companies who are under attack, you have a lot of different industry segments who weren't the traditional target now being attacked, but they're not ready for it. So it was a lot of easy money. And as you know, the internet's a global place. It's very hard to police globally, especially when these hackers reside in areas outside of your jurisdiction. Let's say, for example, like North Korea or Russia, right? So I believe those are the things which have been driving up demand for these cybersecurity professionals.
I see. So something could be like the Olympics, then the remote working, and the third is the emergence of like cryptocurrency, and they could make money with that by hacking your information.
Yeah, on that third point, it's more that they can demand cryptocurrency payments
Mhm.
via ransomware. So what they do is they encrypt your computer, which means you can no longer log into your work computer to access all the data, and that would apply
Oh,
to the whole company.
damn.
Yeah.
I see, mate. So I have this. I want to know a little bit more about your personal journey towards cybersecurity, because I think the day we joined, perhaps we were doing different things, right? Or maybe I was doing software, but you were maybe doing something else. So how do you transition from different area of recruitment to cybersecurity? Like, what brought you here?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I was very fortunate to have a friend refer me for the recruitment role, and we had very similar backgrounds. And I asked him, I was like, should I go into finance recruiting, which is, I come from a finance background, so that was the natural choice, or should I go into technology? And his first response was, go into technology. So, so in the interview, I take this advice and speak to my manager, and I say I want to go into technology recruitment, and the first question is why. I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, I can't really say it's for the money because I know that that business expands. So let me come up with a story, and the story was this. So I heard a story from a seminar which was recently that was held at my previous workplace about how a famous casino was hacked. And this famous casino was hacked through the thermostat in their fish tank. And I replayed that story to show how how quickly technology was emerging, right? And his immediate response was, right, you know what, you'd be really good for our cybersecurity business. You'd be really good for that role. And I'm like, great. Like, how many people are in that role? He goes, oh, it would be you. You would be the first one. And I'm very proud to say we have a team of 5 people now
Wow.
dedicated to looking after security. So just from that one idea, I took hold of that, and I basically ran with it and decided to go, well, how deep can we go here? How can we go deeper and add more value to our customers by doing things like our meetups, redesigning what does recruitment look like, redesigning what does teamwork look like, redesigning everything about the way we do to become more customer centric and more customer oriented. So I think that's been part of our success and part of the journey that I've had in cybersecurity so far.
Great. I'll come later about the how your team is like structure, what kind of roles you guys are focusing. But how long, in generally it takes for a software engineer or any sort of engineer in the tech to transition to cybersecurity?
Really good question, and something that I've heard from a lot of the guys is that a lot of good security engineers actually come from a software background, which makes sense because if we think about the attack surface for cybersecurity, there are a lot more attack surfaces when it comes to making custom code. So having people who can almost do like QA or quality assurance on code, whether that's from code review or seeing logic flaws, because they were a software engineer, they understand what are the common mistakes people make, what are the common things that they could look out for where code could be exploited. So what we're finding is a lot of technology companies here in Japan are looking for those types of people. But it's been very hard to find because people have normally stuck on the network side, right? Network side is fairly limited in the scope or attack surface. A lot of that is covered by scanners. But humans, what they can do is they can dive into the code, see the logic flaws, and what we've seen is a lot of companies are hiring engineers from overseas, which is big difference in Japan. Traditionally, we always hear that you need Japanese to work in Japan. That's becoming less true for good security engineers with this kind of software engineering background, and a number of companies are hiring people directly from overseas and providing them offers and relocation support to work here in Japan, which is really good opportunity, really pleasing to see in Japan as well.
So you mean any software engineer or QA, I would say automation QA, or perhaps network cloud engineer can transition to cybersecurity engineer pretty easily.
Yes. There is still a transition period, and I think it has to do with that person's level of interest, but I'd say more so on the software engineering side. And you asked me about how long would it take to transition. It really depends. It really depends on the person and what they've done. But I'd say a good at least 2 to 3 years in software engineering would help build a good background to go into security engineering.
Awesome. So getting back, you mentioned that now you have a team of five, and I guess you are leading the team. So I want to know, like, what are the areas your team is focusing or your team is servicing the market now?
Yeah, I mean, we segment ourselves based on the different types of customers that we have and what they're looking for. So if I was to break it up, we have we have people who are focused on looking at our what we call like our vendor or consulting. So think about people who are facing customers. There's generally a skill set which requires Japanese and potentially also English. So we call them like our customer facing clientele, and we've got people who are dedicated to that area. Um, Another one is are technology companies who just need English. So that's a different skill set where it becomes more about qualifying people's skill sets, their communication skills. So we have another person looking after those sets of clients. And the third part is we have companies who need bilingual talent or either Japanese speaking only candidates for traditional companies in Japan. So these are like our end user companies, whether like insurance or pharmaceutical or finance. They just need people who have those language skills and some sort of security background. So a lot of that tends to be more about how can I say personality as well as being able to communicate security rather than having a deep technical knowledge. So the way that we would have to qualify candidates is different across those three segments, but that's how I get the team to focus on things. It's something that they can own, and it's
Mhm.
something where they can build deeper relationships with their market and provide choice for a lot of our candidates because we're collecting different clients who are also hiring similar people to them as well. So that's how we kind of organize our team here in cybersecurity.
I see. So getting back to the candidates or the talents, like what do companies not want to see in a cybersecurity talent?
What do they not want to see in a cybersecurity talent? Um, I'd say it depends. It depends on which customer it is. So let's say you're an internal customer, right? They typically need the hands-on security. They typically want some hands-on security engineering skills. What they typically don't want is someone who's come from a sales background or sometimes even like a pre-sales background. They don't want someone who's just been talking about solutions or selling products. They won't be able to have a position for those types of people typically because they need people who take work, take hands on, or come up with a problem. There may be not one single solution to solve it. They need people to think holistically about what is the actual problem we're trying to solve? How can we solve it through conversations with other lines of business? How can we get the right people together to actually solve the problem? And typically what you see from sales and pre-sales is like, I've got one solution that will solve everything. And
Okay.
that's what they typically don't want to see. Um, Alternatively, if you are a hands-on security engineering going to the commercial world, they may say you don't have enough customer facing experience or understand the sales cycle to actually make that transition. So I guess it really depends where your capabilities are and what you're applying for. But if I had to just say one thing that overarches everything, it's someone that doesn't have a passion for cybersecurity. And that would typically show if they're the type of person that um, doesn't really engage with wanting to learn more about cybersecurity or the industry, and they're doing checkbox stuff.
Mhm.
Because cybersecurity isn't just about regulation and checkbox. It really is about partnering with the business from an internal point of view. It's really about being a trusted business advisor, being able to provide your input, providing meaningful input. So if the business asks you, we're thinking of doing X, Y, Z, what are your thoughts? And you tell them, go ahead and do it. I'll check it and review it later. That's not really what they're looking for. They want people to provide the input and say, here are what some other companies have done. This is what I recommend. Um, what are your thoughts? So it's being a trusted business partner to bounce ideas with the business, right? And
I
there's a
see.
big difference on that.
Yeah, actually, this was my next question, like what's non-negotiable while hiring? But you totally touched the topic that I think the passion is very important because if someone doesn't have, because on your meetup as well, I met a few other cybersecurity people and they were so passionate while they were talking. Like they were literally like, I mean, I could see their hand movement and how they were. So I was asking some of the guys, like, so what do you do like on your day-to-day basis, right? And they were saying, we do this kind of testing, blue team, red team, this, that. So I could feel the passion. Yeah.
Basically, the non-negotiable on that side is you need to be a cyber geek to
Okay.
join. But no, but I think, being able to, and it shows right in that conversation that they are passionate. So I think that is a big thing that people look for
Okay.
as well.
Cyber geek. So guys
Cyber
who
geeks.
who wants to be a cybersecurity engineer in the future, just remember that. Yeah. So what are the biggest mistakes, Stephen, like you have seen clients are making these days in hiring? It's a tough
Oof.
market, right?
It is a tough market. It is a tough market. And I think some of the mistakes I've seen is rigid hiring processes, right? So rigid hiring processes and very strict CV screening, right? So if you're a client and you're new to Japan, for example, to be honest, you don't understand what the Japan landscape is like, right? You don't understand, well, did you know that people in Japan don't really speak much English, right? You don't get a sense of what's there. So I always encourage people or encourage clients to go and meet people. Don't just look at don't just go look at CVs. Go and meet a whole bunch of people. Get a sense of what's available to benchmark so that you have a reference point when you make your decision. Because as you know, a CV is just a piece of paper,
Mm,
right? It doesn't tell you their personality, it doesn't tell you the type of person they are in terms of the way they communicate, the way they deal with conflict. It doesn't tell you all those things. And an interview is not perfect, but it can give you a bit more reference points and information to help determine that. So that's number one.
mm,
Number two, I think, is in the rigid hiring processes. If you see a very, very good candidate that you really want, you basically need to change the interview process to go from you interviewing them to you giving you giving them the almost like the red carpet treatment to say,
mhm,
what do you need? What do you need to feel comfortable with this role? What do you need to know? And it is a fine line, right? Um, but you do need to change that process, whether that's, hey, why don't we organize the next 2 or 3 interviews back to back on the same day or in the next few days, rather than going through a particular process. So being able to know the difference when to adjust your interview process is critical, critical, critical to secure good candidates, because guess what? A lot of your competition is doing the same. So they're doing the same things, and it's not uncommon to see candidates getting 3, 4, 5 different offers when they start to think about their next job change.
okay. So it's more like moving fast and the treatment. So
Yeah,
okay.
for sure, for sure. Like if you don't like remember those candidates are evaluating the opportunity and company based on the process that you have. That's also one data point they have. So,
Okay.
so things like going and going and having coffee with the person, A lot of people appreciate that. Getting a chance to go and see the office as well, they really appreciate that too. So it's the timing and the message that you send to the candidate, hey, you're worth my time as well. Super, super important.
Okay. What would be, Stephen, let me know if you're running out of time. But I have a few other questions to ask you.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. So what are the like worst examples of retaining cybersecurity talents in today's
Ooh,
market?
ooh. This would probably be a more general answer that's applicable outside of cybersecurity.
Mhm.
But some of the worst examples might be the emphasis is on hiring people, and you're bringing in a lot of new people way above market rates. Let's say you're bringing in people like 50% above market rates,
Mhm.
but you haven't realigned rates for your existing employees who are doing the work, right?
Okay.
Word gets around very, very quickly, right? Word gets around very, very quickly. These guys are good at finding out information, cybersecurity professionals. So if you're paying new joiners that much of a difference between your current employees, you may want to go and look to re-benchmark how much you pay your existing employees before the message gets out. So it is a side on leadership to take proactive measures to do that to retain their current employees, right? The other thing that I've noticed that's specific to cybersecurity engineers, this is speaking on the engineering side, is that they are very into what's it called, personal development as well as certifications and conferences. So giving them that space and opportunity to say, what do you need from that point of view? Are you thinking of doing any certifications? Let us sponsor you, or do you want to go to this conference here, Black Hat in the US? Let's get you there. So being able to offer those things up front, I think are a really good way to retain people as
Mhm.
well. And if you don't offer it, a lot of your competitors will be offering those things too.
Okay. So you touched a little bit before that a lot of engineers are coming from overseas. So how does it look in Japan or in your experience? Like, do you help people from overseas to find a cybersecurity job in Japan?
We definitely do. We definitely do. And this is the trend that I'm seeing, which is very encouraging. That we're bringing on some strong, strong security engineers, some new ideas from overseas into Japan. Now, typically, what people are looking for is that within your cohort, or within your respect, like your benchmarked area, that you'd probably be about the top 5% in that respective area, given given where you are at your career. So the uh, the expectations are very high. Um, they are very, very high. But at the same time, if you're thinking about from a client point of view, the reason they're going outside of Japan to hire someone is because they cannot find those skill sets within Japan. So it creates a great opportunity for people who have always had a passion to live in Japan, experience a different culture, and what we find typically the people who enjoy their time the most is that they have some sort of connection to Japan, whether they've got some family here, a lot of friends, or they studied Japanese earlier in their lifetime. They visited here on holiday. There is some connection there, right? So it's having the technical skills which are relevant, but also some connection here in Japan, which will help you get a job.
Okay. So can the clients or the companies match the pay scale compared to the other Western countries
No,
or developed world?
no.
No.
Yep. That's straight up. Japan is fairly behind when it comes to compensation compared to compared to some Western markets. Not all Western markets, but most Western markets. A big part of that will be they don't have a big culture of paying huge stock options, like if you're working in the Bay Area. So they typically can't compete. So that's why I say there needs to be some sort of connection
Mm.
here to Japan. So a lot of the people who have come to Japan, you hear about what they've gone through is like they've taken a pay cut, but that's okay because I came here for other reasons.
Right.
right?
But
I
on the
didn't,
other
yeah.
hand, I think Japan, the cost of living is also compared to Bay Area is not that much, right? I mean, you can really control at least what I have seen.
Yeah, for sure. Like people have a perception that Japan is a really expensive place to live, but I think probably one of the most expensive things is rent
Mm.
because for what you get, like it's a pretty small, like I'm living in a pretty small place, but if you factor in not having to own a car, paying for fuel or registration, save a lot of money. Food is extremely cheap here when it comes to eating out to the point where it's actually more cost effective to eat out than cook a meal at home.
Yeah.
So if you factor in all those things, plus in terms of how safe it is to live in Japan, how how there's so many things
Convenient.
to do and convenient, there's a big upside when it comes to that. And I don't think a lot of people know that when coming to Japan. So I think that's one misconception that I'd probably share here on this side.
Sure. So thank you so much, Stephen. Like I think we touched most of the topics. I have three more questions. Those will be like kind of a one word or one line. I call it a
Sure.
rapid fire round. So are you ready for that?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So one reason, why does a company need to worry about information security or cybersecurity today?
Do you want to keep your job? Yeah, if something goes down, that's if you're the CEO or the CISO, that could mean the end of your job, right? Especially if you were warned, if especially if you're knowledgeable about it, right? So, or you could have done something to prevent it.
Okay, I totally got it.
Yeah.
Does companies in general needs cybersecurity insurance?
This one's a tough one, and it's a very hard one to answer in a rapid question.
You
It's
can elaborate. Yeah.
it's difficult to estimate.
Mm.
It's difficult to estimate. It becomes very complicated with insurance sometimes because there are some clauses there which are like, how do you know you weren't hacked before you took out cyber insurance? So you need to be able to attribute when it occurred, how it was done. So there's a lot of things that go in there. Typically, yeah, companies can do it, and I see this being more the trend where they're using some quantitative models to calculate what the estimated damages are or the estimated loss could be, and therefore the insurance amount. So it's something that's starting to happen, but do companies need it yet? I don't have a strong opinion on that just
Okay.
yet.
Understood. Because I know, I think you know, like Japan is a very safety and secure country, and they really love buying insurance. I've been seeing people are buying like additional heat wave insurance now, like going out
Wow.
in the summer. Yeah, I just saw today morning. So I was like thinking, like, does companies now need to, or are they consuming those kind of insurance for cybersecurity? But anyway, this is the last question, Stephen. Like, one suggestions to respond in a cybersecurity emergency.
Oh gosh, I hope you have something prepared and in place before a cybersecurity emergency happens. So that means you have an incident response playbook, which should cover things like who do you need to contact if something goes down, whether that's the security operations team, legal team, compliance team, PR team. You should all know who are the points of contacts and who's responsible for what if an emergency occurs because you need to report it. You also need to figure out which external teams. It could be like a particular incident response team you're going to contact who's going to come and provide additional support on that side. So all those things should be in place. So that's what I highly recommend.
Is it for the whom are you recommending that? Is it the CEO you're recommending or just a general person working in the company?
This would be for a CISO,
CISO. Okay.
CISO to get in place. Yeah.
Got it. All right, Stephen. Thank you so much for your time, mate. Any questions to me or anything you want to add or which I didn't touch?
Look, I think just in terms of one comment, if you're a cybersecurity professional, either in Japan, feel free to check out our meetups. We do it every single month. Second of all, if you're a cybersecurity engineer overseas and you're looking for more information about Japan, I'm happy to help. So you can contact me via LinkedIn anytime. And I think AB, you've also got the upcoming meetup soon as well.
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, I also have a meetup coming for developers in Japan on the 18th next month, August 18th, Thursday in Shibuya. So yeah, Stephen, I think I'm also looking forward to seeing you there. Got some
See you there,
time.
man.
Yeah.
Look,
So yeah, thank you so much, Steven. I'll put your link in the comment below so that people can reach out easily, and hope to see you soon.
thanks, man.
Thank you.
Catch you later, AB.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.